Thank you for joining our open house. We will be getting started in just a few moments. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for our Web Application Design and Development Virtual Open House. Tonight, you're going to be hearing from George McRedmond, who is the program chairperson for this program. And we're going to be going over program information. I'm sure you have questions regarding schedules and applying for financial aid and placement assistance and admissions requirements. So we will make sure that we cover all of that information for you tonight. Just to give you a little bit of information about Hunter Business School, we have been around for almost 55 years now, since 1972. We are based out of Levittown in Nassau County, and we opened up a second campus in Medford in 2006. So they are just celebrating their 20th anniversary this year, which we're very excited about. And as you'll learn more later on in this presentation, you could go to either campus to take this program. So Hunter Business School, we are a technical school, and we are focusing on short-term, hands-on, career-focused training to give you the skills that you need to be able to leave school in a relatively short period of time and go to work in a field that has viable employment opportunities and growth potential. We'll talk more about career services and the placement assistance that we have for this particular program in a little bit. We have strong local industry connections. We've been around a long time, as I mentioned to you, and we've been offering this program for quite a while now as well. We are a Middle States accredited school licensed through the New York State Department of Education. And as you can see on the screen right now, we were voted in 2025 in the top 250 vocational schools in the country by USA Today and a top vocational school of 2026 by Education Insider. So we're very excited about that. Hunter's an environment that is offering more personalized attention and real world training for the skills that you need right now. So I'm going to turn this over to George McRedmond, and I will be back to talk to you again in a little bit.
Good evening, everyone. How is everybody doing? Thank you very much, Bridget. So yes, my name is George McRedmond. I'm the program chairperson for our web application design and development program at Hunter. I'm also the lead instructor for the program, so I take a good percentage of it. I would say easily 90% or so, and teach it myself. Been with Hunter for over 19 years now. This program has not been in place for 19 years. However, it's been around with classes offered since 2016. So it's, close to the 10-year mark very, very soon. And, we've continuously rode the wave of technology and an ever-changing industry to make sure that we are offering the most up-to-date and relevant curriculum for our web development students. Recently went through a full new approval of curriculum as of last April. So I'm going to give you an overview of our program. There's some important points of interest on this slide. Number one, we offer a flexible hybrid format. So some of the introductory slides had shown that we have two campuses in Levittown and Medford. However, our web development program is designed that if a student wants to do it remotely, they can. We've gotten out-of-state students even in this program. And the only part of the program which we're going to get to at the bottom of this little diagram here is that we do have an externship at the end, and we do usually want students to do that as in person. But if a student is coming from out of state, we're usually able to set them up with some out of state opportunities as well, which has been great. It is an accelerated 900-hour program, and we touched upon that earlier too. So it's not as short as like a boot camp type program, which has gained some popularity up and down over the years, but it's also not as long as an entire four-year college-based computer science type of program. I've worked with businesses that have even said they've taken students from our program during the externship, and they've worked with interns from other colleges that are 4 years, and they've said that our students are definitely on par with them. And in some cases, they find that our skill set is more desirable based on the things that they're doing out there. We do offer a full stack technical program. So we cover most of the foundational aspects of web development. Even though some people do want to specialize, it's good to get a chance to see everything. That way you can kind of see the big picture coming together, but it also makes you a very valuable candidate with even familiarity with some of the stuff, even though they may not be your exact career focus in the web development world. We do focus on having you work with a hands-on portfolio throughout your entire program, whether it's going to be code-based stuff, visual-based stuff, or even just your professional portfolio through things like LinkedIn. We channel that into our career development program as well. We are really focusing right now on dispelling the myth of AI, but understanding that it's a valuable tool and really trying to see how that fits into our world. Honestly, right now and within the next year is one of the better times because we did see some backlash with AI. We're starting to see some rubber banding where companies are coming back to hiring real people again. But of course, they want to have AI experience. And we use AI tools every day in various fashions in the classroom. And we have even specialized portions of the course for it. So it's a great time to get in. And while the iron is hot, as they say, and who knows, in a year and a half, we could be talking an entirely different conversation. But with our program taking about 7.5 months and our job placement assistance, you'd get into that sweet spot. Professional externship experience, as I said, this gives you some work experience right off the bat, even before you graduate. And it's something you can put on your resume. Our partner companies will give you a recommendation letter, a lot of cases. And around half the time, they end up hiring students more long-term when their externship is over. And if that doesn't pan out, we do have our career services department that is partially made up of myself and my extension from the classroom into that field, and also a team of career services experts that are willing to help support students from graduation and even beyond getting that first job. Students changing careers, things happen out there. We offer placement assistance for a lifetime if you're a graduate of our programs. So get in a little bit more detail of some of the finer points that are shown here on the slide on this next one. So on the right side, you see a table of all the individual classes that are contained within our web development program curriculum. You see a lot of the foundational things that any developer would need to build into their portfolio of skills like HTML and CSS. And we do a bit of marketing in our program. We do a bit of programming on the back end with Python and PHP. Again, AI is a component in there now. Newer thing that we've added in within the last year and a half has been React.js on the front end, because it's an incredibly in-demand skill. We always React, haha, no pun intended. That wasn't a dad joke. It just fell in my lap. But we do kind of pivot our curriculum to the needs of the businesses that work with us, because we don't want students coming out of our program with a unrecognizable skill set. There's stuff that will probably never change, and there's stuff that frequently changes. So like I said, we've got a nice new polish on it that has seemed to be working well with the more recent students we've been trying to find work for. AI is built into it from day one. It's a very small classroom environment, and that even translates over to virtual. We've been doing virtual since we had to, as the pandemic hit us. And this program is perfect because everything you need is on a computer. Some of our other programs the school offers that are more like medical based, they need to be in a lab sometimes. They need to get their hands on patients. But yeah, what we do is in code and with various software, so that works just as well remotely as it would in person. I had mentioned it before, but it's 900 hours of training, completely career focused overall. That usually equates to around 7.5 months from the first day to where you're finished with your externship. We're building portfolios along the way, again, a code-based one, a visual one, and a professional one, learning foundational skills. And again, the classes can be taught online, yet you have full live support. Nothing is pre-recorded. There is a ton of technology built into the Google Classroom that we use, as well as other apps like Slack and what else do we use? We use Socrative. There's a ton of others. There's so many that popping one out is hard to do. And yeah, you need help, you'll get it. You don't have to wait until after class is over. You want to wait till after class and have an extra help session, we do that too. Students still bond a kind of community within the classroom through the apps that I mentioned. And, if you prefer to be in person, I currently teach out of the Medford campus here on Long Island. That's doable too. And some students come in every now and then. Some are more consistent, and some I truly only see online. So there's a lot of options as far as getting your training. Moving ahead, this is some of our licensing and accreditation that Bridget had talked about in her introduction. Number one, we're licensed and accredited by New York State to operate as a proprietary school, as well as national accreditations. The most prominent of them is the Middle Stage Agency, which for a long time actually didn't accredit a lot of schools that weren't full-on universities, and Hunter was actually one of the exceptions. So they're all very highly prestigious accreditations that are basically proof that what we're offering is legitimate and worthwhile and is going to get you into the field that you want to get into through our different programs of study. All right, moving on to the next slide. The question right now on everybody's lips, and maybe even the reason why you're here, is about AI. And you do see a lot of, really kind of fear-mongering type of articles in the newspaper, and especially on social media, because they want likes, they want engagement, and what better way to do it but to scare people? There is a bit of concern, but that was the same conversation that people had when the internet first started, smartphones began. It's just another tool for us. We don't want to replace our skills with AI. The AI is there to enhance them and what we could do. We still teach the core coding skills. We still talk about technical and creative best practices. So that way you get into the industry. You're not going to be seen as a thorn in anyone's side or worrying that you're doing the wrong thing. problem solving, and logic. That still goes into prompting the various AI tools like Claude or ChatGPT. And, it can't always plan out and work with the management of a project, especially if you're going to be incorporating it into a larger business. A lot of companies are finding that, yeah, the CEO can build an application on their own with these tools, but they're the CEO. They may not have the time needed to do that. They realize that it is very time consuming if you don't know how to use it properly. And they're now, like I said earlier, they're kind of rubber banding back to say, listen, we thought we could do it. Maybe we not be able to do it with 10 people anymore, but let's do it with a smaller team that specializes, and seen a really big boost in going back to our web development related job postings that are out there. We use it properly by taking our foundations that are on the left of this slide and utilizing it for troubleshooting. It can definitely solve problems quicker than looking through every single line of code to try to figure out how and why things are, helping us generate content. You may not be the most incredibly creative person. You may not know how to shoot photo with a camera or video that needs to be embedded into a website or into an app, but the AI can help. A lot of the automation and repetition that becomes very tedious and time consuming, that can be handled through AI. And often I've used it for like suggestions. You get stuck at a point and it will give you a couple of avenues to go down. And it's best right now to be using it as an assistant, not something that can do everything, because there's a lot of horror stories out there too where it's really gone wrong. It still needs human guidance and probably always will. It's just another tool that ramps up the level. In the classroom, we've taken our projects from, good looking projects, relevant projects to the world that we're in, but we've taken them to such a high level now because of all the things that are in the column that says how we use AI. Much more presentable for a student coming out of our program to show an employer and say, hey, look what I can actually do, even with foundational training. All right, but I want to go into a little bit more detail as well about what we actually have been covering and how, this is how AI factors into this. We teach what's called a full stack curriculum, and that really incorporates three main components. The bigger of the first three are front end, which is where web design comes in. Doesn't matter if you're going to be building websites through a platform with AI or strictly from code, you need to know these foundations. There's only one language that builds out web document markup, and that's HTML. There's only one language that allows you to write styling. It's CSS. Other things may contribute to that, but they are foundational. And popularity-wise, JavaScript is kind of winning the race as far as building in features to your website. So HTML is like your skeleton, your CSS is like your skin and clothing, and the JavaScript is like all the different actions you could take and all the different features, the brains of the operation. And recently, we've been incorporating some of the more in-demand, more modern technologies to building off that framework, like React.js is probably by far one of the most popular front-end libraries to enhance our foundation of web design. But there are companies out there that utilize platforms, just like AI. This tool has been around for 12, 14 years as well, had a lot of the same concerns. When we worked off of content management platforms like WordPress, people still thought we'd be replaced and there'd be no need for the humans anymore as many. And that hasn't been proven true with that. There's skill sets related to using those platforms. The WordPress platforms powers around 60% of the internet. So it's still in demand. It's great to get a bit of the coding so you understand how the computer is doing everything, and yet look at some of the stuff that makes it easier for us to do all that. And a combination of all of that makes you a really valuable candidate going out there and seeking a job in what we call the front end. Basically comes down to web design, content creation, etc. But we do show aspects on the back end as well. This is where we start heading a little bit more towards software development, but our program is web development related. Basically, we're staying in the world of the internet and in the web browser rather than like a full-on software package that gets installed separately. But there's a lot of crossover, and it does sometimes give you a stepping stone to head in that direction if you want to further your career too. This is the logic. This is the back room of how the front end presented stuff operates. Databases are involved with storing data. analyzing your data and seeing what it can do for going back to that front end. Like when you log into an account, how does it know it's you? How does it get you your profile information? How do you get your content delivered on your Facebook feed or on Instagram? Well, it's because of the back end. You want a nice front end so it looks nice and it's easy to use, but you need a good back end to be your support and your foundation. So these are the most common back-end related languages to web developers. There are others that we talk about, but even if we don't get to them in our curriculum, there is a lot of, familiar skills and definitely some crossover traits that you could utilize with any back-end technology. We bring in data from other sources through something called APIs. We talk about that quite a lot. Actually, a handful of my students who have more recently graduated got a lot of relevant experience in that field of bringing in data through APIs through their externship. And now their resume is packed with that stuff. And still, AI can help us fix our problems, find issues in our code, which we call debugging, and ship the final version of an app much faster than we were able to do. So we're able to do more even in the classroom and get even the sample programs and projects we work on to a much higher level. And then the third component, which, ultimately is a little bit smaller than the first two, but still valuable. Because we work with a lot of mid-sized businesses and maybe even some small ones too. They don't always have the luxury of hiring one employee for everything. Sometimes they do require the web developers to have some Google Analytics skills, marketing skills, email marketing. So understanding how a marketing campaign generally works, how to automate your content so you don't have to be on top of it every single day, 24/7. Let it do the work for you. AI factors big into this. And actually, a lot of the material built into these components actually comes right out of the Google marketing certification documents. So that's another thing that a student that signs up for our program, we set them up with a platform called Coursera. There are a lot of micro credentials within web development that they can earn by having access to that platform. It's part of basically you enrolling as a student in the school. We have a partnership with them, and you're able to get into an account where a lot of these courses are unlocked, and you can get certifications right from Google, right from Meta, right from Amazon Web Services, in addition to what you're doing in school. You have to do it more on your own time, but some of these classes we offer do prep you a bit for those certification exams that are in there. Social media factors into this, getting into the way that we have stuff delivered right in our face on the social media platforms, how that works, and how the data can be useful to a developer. We cover that with our internet marketing and SEO components as well. All these skills are going to help open many doors for you in the industry, even though, people do tend to specialize in one. It's still going to use, or at least you need to be aware of aspects of them all to be a good, valuable candidate for the jobs that are out there. Moving on to the next slide.
Hi, my name is Amit Singh. I'm a graduate of Hunter Business School's Web Application Design Development program. I've always had an interest in technologies and a desire to learn how to code, but I thought that maybe the time had passed me by. I ended up Googling some schools near me that were offering coding programs that weren't a four-year school, and I came and I found Hunter. What set Hunter apart from other schools was the length of the program and the topics that they covered. They went from coding in multiple languages to SEO to website design. And once I met with the Career Services Department, I knew that this was going to be the home for me. The instructors are incredible. What they taught as far as the fundamentals of programming and design are unparalleled to any other school. They helped me get a job, and now I'm a full-time web developer for a leading advertising agency on Long Island. Thank you, Hunter.
So that was Amit, and he was a former student of mine. He actually has progressed his career a little bit further than when he made that video testimonial for us. We put a timeline of his career there on the screen. He graduated fully in May of 2020. So he was actually mostly an in-person student. He kind of ended his internship at the start of the pandemic. He was able to kind of finish it at that point. And he worked for the company Ergonomic Group as an engineer for a while. And then he went on to a longer role for a few years at a company called Hosio, which is, like he said in the video, a leading marketing agency on Long Island. And actually now he was able to take all of his skills, all of his work experience, and he has actually founded a marketing company. I believe they're specializing in properties and helping real estate agents, stuff like that, named Stratus Digital. So within a timeline of 5 years, he went from literally knowing nothing. I think he was a furniture salesperson, if I remember correctly, to owning a company with steps along the way. And that's 5 years right now seems like a long time, but it's short in the big span of your entire life and career. So that's great that he's not the only one. We have a lot of stories like that as well, too. So I want to move on to the next slide here. When we have this externship, now, first off, you may not even understand what that term means, but you probably have heard the term internship before. It's really the same thing. It just means that you're working with an organization outside of the school for extended education. Once you're done with the classroom portion, the final 180 hours is work these externships. We partner with a lot of companies. Some of them are pretty well known. Some of them are tech-based. Some are not tech-based, but they use a lot of tech in their business, like College Hunks Hauling Junk. You may have heard of them. And you'd think, well, they're just moving people out of one place to another, throwing away mass amounts of trash. What does that have to do with web development? They actually incorporate a ton of technology in their business to make sure that their workers are safe, they're approaching the right locations, managing the data. Managing data is huge, and any business can use. I always say any business can use a web developer. So these are companies that partner with us. They sign a contract, and I personally make sure I go over everything with them so that they know that you're still learning, but you're actually getting some work experience on top of it. And at the very least, it's something you could put on your resume in the work experience section. And a lot of times, if things work out well for you, they'll write a letter of recommendation. And again, around half the time, I would say around 48%. Sometimes it creeps more into 50 or 52. It hovers around that, and it has been for like 9 years. Around half the time, if things work out well and there's an opportunity for you at these businesses, they have hired our students, either immediately or within a short period of time. So if there's not currently students at these places for externship and they feel the need, they know the source to come to. They know students have worked out in the past, and sometimes it happens a little bit after the student is finished with the program. So you'll see on the next slide where we've highlighted a couple companies that have hired our students, there's actually quite a few similarities. And it's not just these handful. We just picked a few that you'd probably recognize, especially if you are, native to Long Island. And yeah, we offer career services both in the classroom and beyond. So we do have a career development component built right into the curriculum. It's a shorter one, but it's to give you some preparation, but we're doing it the whole time. We're building your portfolio with you. Once you complete the classroom portion, you're on that externship. This is where the career services starts to really kick in to build in things like your resume, help you out with the interview process if you need it. So we do things as a group, but we also understand some of you have been on a lot of interviews before. Some are brand new and are looking for their first job and want to make it into the web development industry. We do also take things on a case-by-case basis. The live externship, as I said, is built into the program. And if students need to come in and do mock interviews to help them, we offer that. If students think they're good there, they just need resume polish, we'll just do that. If they don't have a LinkedIn page and now they need it, we'll help them do that. And we could do all of that if you need that as well. And I had mentioned it before, when a student graduates our program, things happen. Students want to move to another company. Maybe it didn't work out great with the company they got hired with. If you come back and ask for assistance, if you graduated from our program, we offer it as far as lifetime support. I have students coming back even 6, 7 years after I've last saw them, asking for help or advice. And the avenues are there. Again, I've been with the school 19 years. The program's been running just under 10 at this point. So it's nice to have that in your back pocket, even if you do land a job, to make sure something goes not your way or you want to take it in a different direction. You have a support system willing to help you out. Some job titles we use, again, this changes so often. Front-end developer, back-end developer have been pretty consistent. We're seeing a lot of what we call UI, UX, which means user interface, user experience. We talk about all that almost every day in the classroom and what that means. Straight up web designer, and that's someone that combines creativity and even some artistic ability with coding. And some of the specializations like AI engineers getting really popular, data analysis, seeing how we get all this data and how we use it. But it changes frequently. They're always going to be based on these same core skills, though. If they're not, we change our curriculum. That's the way it works to make sure everybody is relevant coming out of our program. All right, next slide, I think. This actually is a little, it's not going to be a video with sound, but this is a just rotating collage of some student projects that they finished last week with me. We have 2 large scale project components in our curriculum, and I usually put one of them after we really get into all the basics of web design. And these students were given a list of fake companies in different industries. There was a drive-in, like you saw, a candle seller, retro arcade, landscaping company, bakery, bookstore. They had to pick one, and they literally had to build the site from scratch using whatever of the skills they had so far, and they had a week to do it. So there was time management and stuff like that. And you can see this was all one group, actually. It's pretty impressive. Now, did the AI help? Did the different platforms help? You're absolutely right, but they're there for a reason. They are able to do this. 7 years ago, the same projects, they looked good, but they didn't look this level. And so many things can take to the level. And that's a student project that looks as professional as stuff that you would find out there on the internet. So they learn how to build the project from scratch, use AI to speed things up, do more. Again, we present it as a client coming in looking for a web developer. We follow the good habits throughout. We look for multiple devices so that it looks good on a tablet and a mobile and a desktop. And yeah, we do code too. It's great. You can always take these tools to a higher level if you know some code. Sometimes you don't have to, but if you need to wrestle with the AI or the platform and you don't seem to be going anywhere, sometimes it is simpler to just dig in the code and do a little bit of modification. Anyway, all the classes are live. All my lessons, we have tutorials, we have lectures, rarely go a couple of minutes before applying what we're talking about in a project environment. You'll have anywhere from 30 to 40 projects by the time the curriculum is over. If not more, you could always do more on top of it as well. There's a ton of resources, an unlimited amount, I would say, of extra stuff that you could do if you're willing to put the time into that. Nothing is pre-recorded. We do record some of our stuff for review after the fact, should you need it, but nothing is pre-recorded. Things are live. We track online students through their webcam for attendance. And, even though it is virtual where we could literally have 4,000 people, we understand that that's still not going to be a great student experience. We even keep our remote class sizes down. So when you have a question, it's going to be answered. We'll take the time to work out kinks in your code without anybody worrying like it's going to derail us for a day or we're going to miss out on anything. Again, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I've been doing this for a while and definitely have the technology down and the flow of the class down. I would say any virtual student that you may ask, how do they feel about their experience? They would say, honestly, with the exception of just being able to look up and seeing my face or another instructor's face, it's essentially the same as being in the classroom. As far as contacting our admissions team, if you are interested, but you're concerned about the technology and remote aspect of it, we can also have you pop into one of our classes at any point in time to get a feel of what it's like. You just have to communicate with an admissions rep, which we'll talk about how to do that on one of these next slides. So let's move ahead. All right, so Bridget, if you want to chime in, if you can, about the admissions requirements, I'll just step back for a moment until afterwards.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, George. Yes, as you mentioned, sometimes people come in and they're just unsure how the online classes would work. So we are more than happy to schedule a time with George for you to join a class remotely so you can get a feel for it. I think it's great for you to get as much information as you possibly can. In terms of admissions requirements for the program, students at Hunter do need to be at least 17 years old with a minimum of a high school diploma or GED, and U.S. citizenship, permanent residency, or acceptable non-citizenship status. And really, your first step would be to schedule an appointment to come in to meet with admissions, or if you are not local to the area and you'd like to schedule something virtual, we could certainly do that as well. There is a basic skills assessment that we would schedule at some point in the process. And we would do admissions paperwork with you to get you registered once you have also met with George. So we would arrange a phone call for that to happen. There is a financial aid process as well. So we're going to go ahead and join the next slide. Okay, part of the admissions requirements are to have a meeting with the financial aid department. We have a wonderful financial aid team here, and they would meet with you one-on-one to help you sure is a concern. So financial aid is looking at a couple of things. We participate, you may be familiar with that. We are looking to see if there is any federal Pell Grant eligibility, and there are also federal student loans available. We have monthly payment plans that we could do as well. So prior to you meeting with George, we find out more about what your options would be and what plan would work for you. What we are interviewing for right now is a class that starts on May 29th, and there is still plenty of time for us to get admissions done and have that meeting with financial aid, as well as even scheduling that class observation if that's something that you would like to do. Next slide, please. Okay, so now here's the fun part. So we are going to open this up to some questions. So there is a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. So if you would like to take some time and type in questions, please feel free to do so right now. We do have a couple of questions in there already that we're going to go through. Okay, so George, I think the first question, can you just give a general idea of what a day in the life is like for a student?
So yeah, I don't know if we actually talked about class time. So we are a day program only. So class starts at 8:50 a.m. Eastern time. So that's 10 minutes to 9. And that's usually a 10-minute period where we do attendance and go over the day. Again, depends on when the students enroll. The students that are starting in May will actually start with web design as their first component. They'll be joining actually a couple of students that have gone through some of the program. We have a couple of entry points throughout the years. And yeah, like I said, it's a combination of some lectures. Once we do orientation, which is there to get you used to the technology we use, we kind of go right into it. And we do projects along with the lectures. So every day is contributing to a project that at the end of the project's completion is something that you could build into your portfolio. And I do even do some portfolio requirements as part of graded work to make sure you are keeping up with it. Students have a question. There's a number of things, very much like this Zoom, although we use Google Meet technology to raise your hand, type in chat. Even if you're having a problem with your computer, you could share your screen so I can get a look at what's going on there. Again, I said it before, there's really not much of a different experience versus a student who might be in the classroom if you choose to be online. And we take breaks throughout the day, but the day ends at 3 p.m. We have a lunch break around 11:40, 11:45. That's a little bit longer and smaller breaks pretty much at most of the top of the hours to get a breather in. And we cover a lot. We're a 900-hour program, and yet again, I've had companies actually say the body of work we're creating in less than a year is on par with students who have done a 2 or a 4-year program, because our focus is placement. We're a outcome-based school. We don't do well if you don't do well. So we want to give you the ammunition and the skills and the portfolio to get yourself out there and get a job. So it's very hands-on with a combination of, again, learning skills, learning what I've learned. I was a web developer before I came to Hunter. I worked 10 years for a software company. And based on my licensing, I have to keep up with that. So I do consulting work. I manage 3 live websites for different businesses currently while being a full-time teacher. So you're getting relevant information along with the hands-on stuff we do every single day. Hopefully that
And George,
answered
the
where you
pace
were
is
going.
really nice too, right? They're
What's
just
that? I didn't
doing
hear
one
them.
class at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So it's manageable. You know, if you're trying to juggle multiple things, you could do one class at a time, and each time you finish a class, you start a new class.
Yeah, we don't have like periods throughout the day. We really can't do that. You can't kind of mix it up as much as another program where it might be like for a medical program, you're doing billing in the morning and we switch it up to like a lab. It's all lab and lecture mixed in, and we progressively just go one at a time.
I think it's great because it is makes it so much easier for someone who is just juggling life and children and jobs and everything else that you do while you go to school.
Yeah.
And what are you doing, or what are we doing as a school and in your class, George, to help the students to be successful?
So there's the portfolio, as I said. We really do 3 portfolio components: a code-based one with a platform called GitHub, which some people who may have experience may have heard about. That's just to focus on your coding projects. There's even a lot of live components to that now that weren't there 2 years ago. To even if someone doesn't even know what they're looking at with the code, you can give them a link to where it looks more like a website or an app instead. We do actual build website type things like the ones you saw on that slide. That's a visual component, and your professional portfolio through LinkedIn. We're starting even to look at things like beacons, like those link tree type things you put on your Instagram, and it just shows you a couple of different links as like a hub. We're looking into that stuff too. So we're fully there looking to support you. It's not just a piece of paper. Hopefully, you're looking to get out of this. It's a job. It's a new path to a career. And I always say the students that are willing to put in the work in the classroom, effort even on the outside, not you don't need an exorbitant amount, like ton of homework or whatever, but it does help. And employers see that too. And if you're willing to find a job, it'll happen. There are still a lot out there, no matter what they say about AI. The skill set is changing. We've pivoted our curriculum to match it. And students are willing to put their nose to the grindstone and do especially what we're kind of guiding them towards. We've had a lot of success.
And can someone come into this program with no real experience? They've got no coding background. They'll learn how to build a website from scratch. Do they need to have some experience coming into this? How much hands-on will they get?
Yeah, well, hands-on they'll get every day. I mean, I can't even express. If you wanted to put every project we do in the class in your portfolio, I mean, just thinking with web design alone, there's 20, and then we get into the programming, there's another 15. It's incredible. But we do have it set up primarily for a beginner in mind. So you really need an interest. And I know Bridget had mentioned that there's an interview with me as part of the admissions process. That's generally what I want to gauge, is how interested. It's not easy to do it. And if you don't have interest, you may want to give up before seeing it through. If you have interest, though, you're going to see the tough times out and you're going to gain valuable skills. And sometimes if a person has too much experience, we really need to assess and see if it's, going to fit in line with what they're looking for. But it is set up more for a beginner or a person with a few hands-on, whether it was in high school or another class that they take as experience. But you're going to learn the best practices to follow. Because again, we work with these companies. I still semi-work in the field. We know what to look for. Employers are looking for certain things. It's a lot of the guidance too, as well as the technical skills. So yeah, if you're coming in with zero experience, you will be completely okay. And if you have a little bit, you'll see a better refinement of them. Absolutely. There's a knot for both sides there.
Okay. What kind of growth opportunity is there in the field, George?
Well, number one, it's what you put into it. A student with that amount of effort, like Amit, went from knowing nothing to kind of starting his own business. I've had a number, I'd say 8 off the top of my head, that are like that. I had one student who finished the program, again, put a little effort on his own, got a couple of extra certifications more on the cybersecurity side. And he's actually a project manager for a company. You may not know it if you don't know about like security tech. It's called Deloitte. They're actually pretty well known in that field. He's a manager there, and he came back and I talked to him a lot. Sometimes I have him come speak to the class, and he said, yeah, that was a little bit more of a specialized skill set, but he couldn't have made it without the Python that he learned here. I've had a couple senior data analysts go in there, heads of marketing, heads of the department. One of the best things I've seen as a teacher is we may have got a student in as an entry level position at a company. And what happens is a few months go by and the student reaches out and says, I just got promoted. And you know what? They want another Hunter student to fill my old job because they know it worked out so well for me. We've seen that a lot. That company Hosio that you saw over, I mean, now it's got to be 8 years at least, have hired like 46 or 47 of our graduates in that time frame. So yeah, there's a lot of those opportunities. If you want to kind of just put the minimal entry level effort in, you may stay entry level. But this is a field where you can ramp up really quick. Starting to see some nice salaries posted on the jobs, but they expect more. But AI, thankfully, can get us to that level really quick. It's not like you have to put in a ton of hours on your own. Using the AI can get you to the level with learning how to prompt correctly. So it's good. Like I said, this year seems like it's a great starting point, a nice sweet spot. And who knows what the next year will bring. So it's good to get in the ground floor right now.
From an admission standpoint, we always tell people, with this externship, you treat that like a 180-hour long job interview because there could be a hiring opportunity for you at the end of it if you're a good fit for each other and they happen to be hiring. But at the very least, we want you to come out of it with a great reference and experience to put on your resume. And then you start working with the career services team here so they can help you to start network. But there's so much good that can come from that externship experience if the student puts the effort into it.
Absolutely. And some colleges don't even have that component, or at least they don't do it in the idea of looking for job placement out of it. So had a number of businesses that have come, and we're part of a lot of organizations on Long Island and in New York that really have said we're unique and a good thing for the tech community here on the island or in the tri-state area. Absolutely.
And George, what would you say to someone who's excited but maybe very nervous about the thought of going back to school?
Well, first and foremost, being excited and nervous is a general feeling in this industry because it's always changing, and this is just something new to change. Number one, you have the support. We have a wide variety of students. You'll have young, you'll have old, you have some people who have worked, some people who are right out of high school. You shouldn't feel afraid. If you do want to get a feel of things, schedule an appointment with our admissions rep and jump in. You could do it for 20 minutes. You could do it all day. As long as I'm doing something exciting, that's really it. Sometimes we do longer projects or we have a quiz, and we wouldn't want you observing that because it would be kind of boring. Get a feel. I personally, I think I've never had, one of the other numbers we measure is called retention rate, which means when students start, do they stay through to graduation? I have a pretty good retention rate overall. So that means they're sticking there, they're seeing benefit for it. Yeah, it's scary and it's a change, but believe me, it's almost like the movie The Matrix. When you start learning about these tools that you use every day, it's like you start seeing the world in a different light. You'll see how valuable it is, not for just a tech company, but any company can use a web developer. So there's tons of opportunity, and that's the part that now takes over from you being scared and nervous to become excited. And it's just cool to learn new stuff, at least in my opinion, from time to time, compared to your everyday routine. So if you are feeling like that, again, there's avenues to talk to me, even for virtual students, or even talk to your fellow classmates and get a sense of what they're doing.
And I think the nice thing to remember about this is that you're in smaller environments. I mean, even though you're remote, it's not like you're going to other classes.
Yeah, you broke up a little bit, but I think what Bridget was trying to say, it's still small. We still want to keep it manageable because virtual or not, you're still a student. It still takes time to help. We couldn't do that with 400 people chiming in here and there. We don't want a million distractions. And again, even virtually, believe it or not, you do get a sense of, a, group environment and a community with your fellow students too.
And George, I think lastly, would you be able to just review that schedule again one more time and the length of the
Yeah, so our
program?
new class is going to start on May 29th. So it's not that far down the road. But again, like Bridget said, we do have time to get some of these things out of the way if you want to jump in on that class. Like I said, now's a really good time to not delay. We're in a really nice sweet spot for now. That could definitely change in 8 months. We do have day classes only for this. And again, they are live. So we do work with the timetable. Classes start at 10 minutes to 9, 8:50 a.m., Monday through Friday only. There's no weekend. And they go until 3 p.m. And like I said, there are breaks scheduled throughout. The 900-hour program overall takes about 7.5 months. The only part of that that may factor into that timeline is the hours you work out with your externship. The first 720 hours are in the classroom. The final 180 is at the externship. And at that point, the externship takes the place of your class. A lot of people ask, do I need to do both? How do I do both? No, when you're ready to go to that phase, that's your classroom, is working with the companies. And once that's complete, you're considered graduated if you meet all the academic and attendance requirements. And again, either you've gotten an offer from your externship site, or if not, you've gotten the experience, the upgraded resume, the letter of recommendation, hopefully, and then our career services team takes over. But once you finish the 900 hours in full, you're considered graduated. And like I said, usually that takes about 7.5 months worth of time. Any other questions?
All right. Sorry, my connection seems to be a little shaky. I had to work remote tonight. So next steps really are going to be to reach out to admissions. All right. You can contact either the Medford or the Levittown locations. The contact information is up on the screen. And we would be happy to go over more information about this program. And again, we still have time to get you ready for this upcoming class, and you can finish by the end of the year. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and I hope you have a great night. You scan that QR code that's on your screen right now.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening to me. Hope to see you in the future.
Have a great night. Thanks.